months, we decided to come to Makoko. Makoko is a slum community in Lagos State. It is the largest floating slum in the world. The majority of the people that live there live on wooden stilts on black water, so it is almost inhabitable. The greatest challenge for us when we got there was that the children there, they didn't speak any English word. They didn't speak the local Yoruba dialects that I understood. They spoke Igbo instead. And it was a bit confusing because chess is a very complex game that requires, using a lot of complex terminologies to explain. I mean, how do you teach a child that has never seen the four walls of a classroom before that a rook moves vertically and horizontally? So we weren't sure how to still, reach them because of the language barrier. But we decided that we're going to do it still. And a lot of people don't understand that in some of these places, I mean, it's easy to just sum these things up into convenient statistic. When they say 100 million Nigerians are in multidimensional poverty, it just sounds like data. But these are actual lives. And the people that bear the most brunt of this are the children, the future of our nation. Makoko has a population of more than 200,000 people, and the majority of them are children who have never had any form of education before. The greatest aspiration in that community is to become a fisherman or to learn how to make boats, and that is it. And the children that live here, because they don't get quality education, they will never truly get to know what they can become. So this was why we staged our intervention in that community, despite the health hazards and the language barrier. We didn't want to tell another story of poverty. We wanted to tell a new story of the children that live there, not because of their background, but because of the potential that they wield. And that was where we met Ferdinand. So we started out, we introduced the children, this is chess. We tried to use pictures, images, gesticulations, because they couldn't hear what we were saying. And we registered about 20 of them. And on that day, little Ferdinand walked in, and the other children were bullying him because of the way he walked, They told him not to come in because he has a medical condition, cerebral palsy, which comes with speech impairment. So he only speaks very few words, and he doesn't understand any English language. So he was crying because they wouldn't let him in. And we later got to learn that the children used to call him Golugo. Golugo means dummy in Egun. And they would always bully him and mock him because of his condition. He had never been to school before. I saw him crying. And we had selected the 20 children we wanted to teach. But I was really touched, and I wasn't sure how I was going to learn, but I still gave him a chance and told him to come in. And a few minutes in his class, he outperformed every other child in his class. Now, I have taught more than 2,000 children how to play chess. Even before I started the Chess in Slums project, I used to work in private schools. But I had never seen a child learn at such incredible pace before. So I kept watching him. We trained them for about a month, 5 hours every day. And at the end of our training session in the community of Makoko, we decided to organize a tournament. On that day of the tournament, we made suits for all the children like this. He's wearing a suit today. About 50 other children too wore 3-piece suits on that day. Now, when someone tells you or shows you a picture of a child from the slums, what comes to mind is a child that looks tattered. But we wanted to tell a different narrative of children that live in the slum communities. We wanted to give a new image of them so the world may see that it is possible to do great things from a small place. Chess is a very prestigious game. And we wanted them to feel that prestige of that game of royalty on that day. And they were looking all dapper and, they were looking so beautiful on that day. And they showed up and they played chess. And Ferdinand won the junior category. He turned up like a champion. It was amazing. I remember dressing him up and helping him, buckle his shirt. And, for the first time, I saw him mutter the word champion. He had never spoken an English word prior to that time before. But he said champion. And he kept saying champion. And he held his trophy and said champion, champion, champion. And when I got home that night, I felt the kind of joy that was inexplicable. To see those children on that day turn up, dressed like that, to play chess at such an incredible level, it was almost unbelievable. Despite all the barriers, we were still able to reach them. And they showed us on that day that there could be more. They had never been to school before. All the children were trained on that day. They never spoke an English word. But hey, chess, that is the touchstone of intellect, the highest, cerebral, game that is respected all over the world. These children were able to master it in just 1 month. And I shared the story of the little boy that won this tournament. And that story went viral. And the governor of Lagos State, even at the federal government level, everyone was completely astounded by the story of this little boy from the slums of Makoko, who became a chess champion. And the governor of Lagos State invited him over to his office. He said, let me play against him. The governor is a really good player, by the way. And they played a game of chess that lasted about 40 minutes. But Ferdinand at the time had only learned for about a month, and the governor had been playing chess for a really long time. The game ended in a draw. And the governor was so impressed that he gave him ₦1 million cash, put all the siblings on lifelong scholarship support, and they'll be relocating them from the community to a state-owned apartment in a couple of weeks. Now, from the slums of Makoko, the game of chess, the gift of chess, made a difference in the life of Ferdinand, and he got to stand before kings. Ferdinand's father is a fisherman, and his mother a petty trader. Normally, the path that destiny chooses for children that live in places like that is to also become fishermen, and for the girls to get married early and take care of their family. But destiny has chosen a more glorious path for Ferdinand. And his story is one that inspires. I got thousands of emails from people around the world, who had children, with different medical conditions. And Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines disability as being mentally or physically impaired in a way that substantially limits activity. But I tell you today that disability is none of those things. Disability means to crush a spirit, to deflate curiosity, to promote an inability to see beauty, to deprive one of imagination. Ferdinand is by no means a disabled child. He's a differently abled child who is gifted. And with these tremendous burdens, comes the greatest gift. And with his frail body, he houses the greatest spirit humanity would ever know. And this is not just the story of Ferdinand. This is the story of millions of children in Nigeria and Africa that live in some of these unlikely places that we don't pay attention to. We should never let their background define what they're capable of. Because as we are all here expanding margins, as we continue to dare greatly, let us remember that the only future worth dreaming of is one that includes all of them. All the children that live in these places who might never get a chance to know what they can truly become. We have to also dream about their future and give them the required education and skills that they need to create the future that they desire for themselves. Every child should count. Every child should matter. I'm here to advocate for those children who live in those places, in the slum communities, in the ghettos, in impoverished communities, in those villages. For me, my way of connecting with them is through chess, because chess has changed my life tremendously, and I know it can. A lot of people ask, why chess? Some people just think it's just this boring board game, but why chess? Chess is a beautiful game that connects people. It doesn't matter who you are. Ferdinand has played against the governor. He has played against, we had him play against some expatriates from Lebanon some weeks ago. The game has put him in front of so many people. And on that chessboard, on that stage, it did not matter what his name was, how old he was, or his disability. There was no disparity. He played, and he played like a true champion. Chess, for me, is a great equalizer. And that is why I'm taking into the slum communities for little children. Every child, should have the ability to think for themselves. And coupled with that, we're also using it as a medium to get them back to school on scholarship support. Education for me, beyond the four walls of a classroom, is the capacity for thought. And until those children that live in these places start to think for themselves, to know that they too can become. The day we made suits for them, they look like lawyers, they look like doctors, they look like engineers. You would never know, that they're children from the slums of Makoko. That was how they looked on that day, and that is what they can truly become. The only difference is the level of information that we have in our own privilege that they don't have. So we must create an equitable future for them too. This is my dream. This is my greatest desire. And that is why I'm here, to make a case, for the children that live in slum communities. Thousands of children like Ferdinand, whose story might never get told. Every child is a story yet untold. And until we begin to deliberately, take steps and make plans for their own future too, and not neglect them because of their background or where they're from, it is only then that we can truly create a future that includes all of us. Thank you.